must change.
That's got to change.
Well, if that happens, they're definitely going bankrupt.
Yeah, if that happens,
because like, why would you like? Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm gonna use MLS, but I don't. I mean,
so they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight that.
They're gonna fight
tooth and nail.
Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown. It's clear that NAR has been morally bankrupt this past year, but will they be financially bankrupt here in the future? That's the question.
Dun, dun,
that is
dun.
the question.
We find ourselves as one of the cogs in their behemoth trade association.
Yes, we pay them.
We do pay them. We are all dues members. And you know, hey, I have a long-standing, deep love for the real estate industry, for the leadership that has gotten us to where we are. But the bottom line is NAR has been around for 120 years.
Yep.
And it is time for some change.
Yes.
And what we uncovered last week with the hiding of the membership reports, we're trying to find their financials. They're hidden. We can't find any financials.
No, it's not online.
All wiped off the internet. If you can find NAR's recent financial statements, let us know. We could find 2023. We could find 2020, but nothing about this year.
Yep.
No, it's suspicious.
2023 would be this past year, right? So
Keith found August.
Well, it wasn't a full financial breakdown. It just talked about percentages of where their revenue come from like non-subscribers. I'm sorry, from non-MLS dues versus MLS dues, but it didn't tell me what the numbers were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just a nice little graph with percentages. That's about it.
Well, and we kind of started doing a look back at what's happened over the past year-ish. And we know that NAR was embroiled in these sexual assault allegations. Yep. We saw leadership change. We saw the president, Tracy Casper, she resigned because she was being blackmailed. Super suspicious.
That's really crazy.
What was she being blackmailed about? Yeah. That's I'm curious. And like, And what does she know?
Yeah.
About.
I mean, majority of the time when you're blackmailed, it's because you did something that either you weren't supposed to do or you were trying to hide it, and someone goes, "Well, hey, you want me to bring this to light?"
Or they did something to trap her because they knew that she knew something, so they could like blackmail her to keep her from saying something.
No doubt. Here's the reality. In the absence of the story, our minds will concoct the story. And I think that is happening to hundreds of thousands of realtors across the U.S. that are just legitimately concerned about the lack of leadership, the lack of lobbying, the laws that are being passed that are so unfavorable for real estate. I mean, this whole commission thing is just such bogus, really. And we could argue the merits of it, and it's not going to do us any good. But the reality is it's the leadership that got us to where we are, and I think we need a fundamental change.
Well, how NAR just sold out, like I think was it KW or no, it wasn't KW because they'd already pre-settled, but I forget who they sold out like after the $418 million agreement to settle after that, right? It was over a massive duration of time that it must be paid, while everybody else must pay essentially immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, it's a sellout.
It was the big brokerages. And so since then, some of them have settled. We've seen Compass settle and whatnot, but you're absolutely right. Like, they didn't take into consideration those guys. They're like, they can fend for themselves.
Exactly.
And, hey, I'm grateful for the protection that the settlement agreement will give me and our brokerage and whatnot. But on the other hand, is it time for a change? And we know that Mauricio Umansky has started the American Real Estate Association, and he is now up to almost 4,000 members. So they're growing. They're getting traction.
So not everybody's going to know who that is. I know I only knew him because of the agency, and I think he's got a show on HGTV. So why don't you give a little bit more context on why this potentially, with him at the tip of the spear, could catch more steam?
Well, I mean, the guy is just really well known in real estate, very well respected.
Well, he was on Dancing with the Stars.
He was recently on Dancing with the Stars, yes. Okay. And I think that when it comes time to choose leadership, we kind of like that idea of having someone whose life has been somewhat
a little in spotlight.
Yeah. They've been in a fishbowl, and we've been able to watch this guy, and there's no doubt that he has a passion for real estate and a passion for real estate agents as well.
Yeah. whole agency. I mean, the agency is now multiple states. As it's expanded. I know it's out here in the Phoenix metro, but yeah, I mean that obviously in the LA County, it's crushed it. Of course, those average sales prices don't hurt, but.
So why do realtors or real estate agents join NAR?
MLS.
So basically, the only reason why we join NAR is to get MLS access. That's most agents. Most agents, that's the only reason they join it, right?
I'd say the large majority.
So it's kind of like you're almost forced.
Well, you are.
It's funny you bring that up.
You don't get it, right?
So I was looking up some recent issues of NAR, and one of the Google predictive questions is, people also ask, what is the point of NAR? NAR's core mission is to empower realtors as they preserve, protect, and advance the rights to real property for all.
I think what happened is, before they were protecting with this with the commission, right? Because on MLS, if there was a commission there, and it wasn't paid by the brokerage, they were forced to pay it, right? And now that that's not there, it's like, now what do you need the NAR for?
Yeah. Well, there's also standardized forms and things. There are benefits to being a part of the organization, but it's just, I think we're at a point where a lot of us are scratching our heads and asking us if the benefits are worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, I think a prime example, again, I'll use it just because it's fresh on my mind here, but when Mauricio we were watching it when he was recently on stage on Inman talking about ULA, which is that tax in LA where if the house apparently is over $5 million, you're going to get an additional tax when you go to sell that property. Doesn't matter if you have cash, if you're making money on the deal, et cetera. It's just a tax, and it's supposed to be able to build houses for the homeless. There's lots of legislation, I think, that goes on like that NAR should absolutely get involved in. And per him, agents didn't even know that it existed until it was already voted on and passed. Like that is not in alignment with that statement right there.
No, it's not. So are they going to go bankrupt? Because you can look at their numbers. I mean, from previous numbers. So I was looking at 2020 and their financials, and it looked like they were bringing in at that point, which was, membership count was much lower, but they were bringing in just off of realtor dues close to $100 million
it's a boatload
a year,
of cash.
right? And then, of course, they have
Per
all
year,
of these
right?
per year, and they have all these other revenue sources, of course. And I mean, Keith uncovered that from their revenue that's not related to dues, the majority of it is from late fees.
Yeah,
like 65% was from late fees.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. So
Well, if you think about it, though, because Elliot said this, is, probably the people that won offers, they didn't pay their dues, and then all of a sudden their mom needed or their sister needed to sell their house, and they're like, oh, I got to pay my dues. Oh, I'm going to pay a late fee too.
Yep.
And then they reactivate their license or their membership, and they're able to use the MLS again.
Yep.
So
if I can see a path, sadly, where they could go bankrupt soon if agents continue to leave. So for instance, like if the American Real Estate Association continues to gain steam and it goes from the 4,000 members it's at, and now 10, 20, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, that is a lot of money being siphoned out of NAR's coffers going into somebody else's hands. And what is going to change? I think number one, decoupling the MLS from NAR must change.
That's got to change.
Well, if that happens,
That's
they're definitely
ridiculous.
going bankrupt.
Yeah, if that happens,
Because like, why would you like?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm gonna use MLS, but I don't.
So they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight that.
They're gonna fight it
tooth and nail.
Yep.
But they've had such a, you really, okay, so even data, right? Like, look at how hard it is to get housing data. Yeah. So, okay, and I'll just kind of peel back, give you our perspective on getting data. So we are all realtors. We have been, Elliot, when were you licensed?
2006.
And you joined NAR immediately?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. How about you, Keith?
2010.
And you joined NAR immediately? Yep. How about you, Jay?
2003.
And did you join NAR immediately?
I did.
Yep.
Well, I was forced to. I didn't know it. I didn't know I did.
That was standard
I just
operating
procedures.
It was.
I got to pay this person and I got to pay this person.
Yep.
And
I was told you need 2 checks. You're going to need to go down. You're going to need to join at the time. It was the Southeast Valley Association of Realtors, and you're going to join the National Association of Realtors. And when asked why, my broker didn't even know. She's just like, do it. And so we all joined blindly.
Yep.
Okay. So we're all realtors and we're passionate about this industry. Well, several years ago when we decided to start a technology company, one of the things that we needed was access to data. And in order to get data, you would not believe how difficult it is and how expensive it is to get real estate data. It's insane.
It's almost impossible for a startup to even afford it.
It is. And in fact, so much so that a lot of startups that are in this position where they need this housing data sometimes will partner with a data company and give up a percentage of their equity to a data company just to get that data in exchange. It's so insane expensive. Like, you would not believe how insanely expensive it is.
And it's our data.
Except it's our data. Keep in mind, all of the data,
the funniest part.
This is the part that just blows us all away. All of this data is the data that us as realtors in the field are going and getting and collecting and uploading, and you're leveraging then all of our data in the conglomerate, and the only carte blanche access to all of the data is what?
MLS, National Association of Realtors.
Zillow, Realtor.com. They have these.
The only ones who.
The only ones that can get all of the data. But then we go try and get all of the data, and oh no, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to go to each MLS, and you're going to have to subscribe to a vendor feed to each MLS. And at the end of the day, if you do it that way, you're going to fork out about $500,000 a year with no ends in sight, over and over and over and over again, just so you can have access to the data that we went and got. It's such bullshit. It is beyond bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I can't think of the word of what that is. I've been trying to search in my head for it right now. I'm totally drawing a blank, but maybe you guys. It's like
they have a monopoly on the data.
It's a monopoly, absolutely, but there's a word for it, and I'm totally drawing a blank on it. But maybe one of the listeners will put in the comments.
Well,
this is the word you're thinking.
We'll start a revolution.
Something needs to be done.
Is that what this is?
Well, I think right now it's the tip of the iceberg, huh?
So should we join the American Real Estate Association?
We're joining the American Real Estate Association.
Because I don't know much. I had heard about it, but I don't know much about it. So what would be the quote unquote benefit of? Do you leave NAR and join them, or do you have to join them?
Yeah, because if we leave NAR, then we won't have MLS.
That's why I was about to add. So they don't have as much power or reach, correct?
Exactly.
So what would be the purpose of joining them right now?
I think the purpose of joining them right now is it's a movement, and
just
you
to
get
the middle finger.
Yeah, you get in early, and I mean, kind of it feels like the middle finger, but ultimately it's not. It's going like this.
If everyone
is
stopped their NAR membership and went here, they would be forced to. I mean, then they would definitely be forced to.
Well,
like what it's MLS because the MLS wants their money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're saying, hey, everyone says, hey, we're going over here. If you MLSs don't want to work with us, then I guess we're gonna start our own.
At the end of the day, we all know it's politics involved. So if the American Association of Realtors they get enough reach, then they can start taking on NAR. With what NAR doesn't want to give up, such as MLS access. So it'll be interesting to see, by the end of the year, what they're almost 4,000.
Yeah.
I mean, what if they 10x by then?
It's really cool with Mauricio in that we watched
that. Flowing in.
Heck yeah.
We watched that little interview with Brad Inman. He said, "Hey, if this moves NAR to change, it's still a win for him.
It's still a win. Yeah.
So it's like, hey, if we gotta use some leverage here to go like, hey, we're all gonna leave and go over here if you don't change what you're doing and work for us instead of just taking our money, then I mean that's a good thing if they actually make the change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously say if you look at the duration of time, in my roughly 18, 20 years that I've been licensed, since we just did the math on it.
It goes by fast, doesn't it?
It's too fast. Yes, I know that there's a lot of lobbying. Obviously, you have some, forms and whatnot, but a lot of that's done by your actual local board. And yes, I realize that they're a part of the bigger body on certain pieces of it. But it's truly, what is the benefit for us as agents? Other than, yes, it gives you access to MLS. So if there was a decoupling of it, like Jay just said a second ago, and you truly had a choice, would you join NAR? That's a question for all the listeners out here or viewers on this. Curious question. If you had the opportunity to not be a part of NAR, but you could still pay MLS, have access to the superhighway of information that we need for buyers, sellers, etc., would you choose to unsubscribe?
Most people wouldn't
From NAR.
subscribe. I think most agents wouldn't subscribe because they're the 0 and 1 transactions a year. So why would you? Like,
well, that's
hey,
50 over 50%.
If you're able to use
agents,
MLS, you do what you need to do. You're one deal a year, and why would you?
Well, and it would give the opportunity for even producers to go, okay, well, that is a great question. Let me go back the last 5 years, and why is there any circumstance I truly would have needed NAR? And I would be surprised if the answer was yes.
I would fall over.
Especially because after this lawsuit, or
right?
The settlement.
The
I mean, that's what they were there to
That's
protect
what they were
us
there
from.
for.
But they didn't do crap. They just let it go and let them.
It's not a big deal. They thought it was not a big deal.
They thought it was no big deal.
They had this in the bag.
They didn't say anything like, "Hey, we're worried." They just said, "No, we're not worried about this. This is garbage. We're going to take care of it." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, there was no advisory adjustments, nothing until the hammer dropped.
You know, well, we talked a lot last week about NAR and hiding membership reports, and we got a lot of feedback and comments from you. So we thank you for chiming in on the discussion. We're doing our best to go through and respond to those comments. Another thing I want to point out is that the American Real Estate Association is creating a national MLS. And so I kind of like that idea.
I do too.
You know, I think that it makes sense. Like, yeah,
makes
exactly,
absolute
right?
sense.
Like, why do we only have access to
Well,
the
it already
information
almost
in our
exists
market?
in RPR, but it's like, you know, would be much better if it was like full MLS.
Yeah, you didn't have to go to Zillow to go look at some house over there to figure out, like, yeah.
Yep.
You could actually go to your national MLS to look
Yeah.
at the properties instead of.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that's a little broken in our industry, and I get it, right? Especially when, let's say, here in the Phoenix metro area as an example, right? We have our AR MLS. And if I were to go to Payson, Arizona, which is a little outside of an hour, then they have their own local MLS. Woohoo!
You got to pay them.
And boy, do they keep that protected and close to their arms. They do not want you meddling in their business.
Yep.
But if we had a national MLS, yes, I still think that would be fine, because at the end of the day, we all still need to only practice within the scope of our knowledge and area that we should be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if there was a national MLS, people are like, oh, well, all these people would be doing transactions all across the country. Well, no, maybe there could be some regulations in place for that, or maybe have the big no-nos in place, like, hey, you shouldn't be practicing real estate in Georgia just because you have a national MLS. It would just be nice to have it. It shouldn't be so damn secretive. I think that's what we're all trying to communicate.
The data.
Here.
It's the data. And we should have access to the data that we are out there collecting and providing to the MLS. Like,
especially since the majority of it is public data.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yes, you have a few states that are quote unquote non-disclosure
Right.
states, but again, all of us know we can go to Redfin, Zillow, find it there on some,
But
version
sometimes
of it,
that's not even that great too, depending on the data.
Yeah, they don't have all the information there.
Yeah.
well, and hey, not all MLSs are created equal either.
No.
Glenda Baker shared with me that in her MLS in Atlanta, the MLS gets a percentage of the closed transaction paid for by her as a listing agent and the buyer's agent.
Are you
And
kidding?
no,
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
So they gotta
she
pay
said,
the-
she said like she gave me the number. I think it was like on a $500,000 house. It would be like about $600 that she would end up having to pay, that the other side would end up having to
That's
pay.
a lot.
Like a ton of money. Yeah. So not all MLSs are created equal either. And something
per
like
transaction
yes, per transaction.
to the MLS.
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Crazy.
Hey, that's not.
I
Much
think I
different
remember
than these
seeing that.
county transfer taxes in some of these places.
Yeah.
But anyway.
but that's going to the county. This is going
I
to
know, I
the
get it,
MLS.
but-
Like insane, right?
That sounds insane.
And a lot of them pass it on to the listing or the listing agent or the listing not the listing but the homeowner
Yeah.
and the home seller, because I've seen that before.
Yeah, hey,
on,
there's
like,
this
hey,
additional.
there's an extra
fee.
fee. It's an MLS fee that they charge us. So and they put it in the listing agreement that they'll pay it.
that the seller will pay it.
The seller pay it, because I remember
Holy
seeing that.
cow.
Because we had a few in
Interesting.
Atlanta. I remember them going like you have to pay for
Well,
this.
and then like in New Mexico, the seller is pretty much forced. It is negotiable, but
Gross
most
receipts
agents
tax.
don't negotiate it. Yeah, you have to pay taxes on the commission. Like, well, shouldn't the realtor pay taxes on their own commission?
Yeah, not the
Yeah, they're
seller.
charging
Anyway,
the
so
gross
just-
receipt
yeah,
tax
I
for the
just, there's
commission.
in all
they
these little
earn.
areas, we can go down all kinds of rabbit holes. It is unique.
Well, you know what this honestly makes me think of, and is as much as what so many of the bigger tech companies actually aim to solve, right? Simple fees, simplify the process, right? Like when you really look at it, that's why they'll couple everything together, right? What's a fair fee is what their claim has been for years, and that
Who's
way
they?
people aren't
Who are you
getting.
talking about? Give me an example.
Open Door would
Okay.
be one that I feel like that they have attempted to simplify certain things with a service fee. It doesn't, obviously the price that they still have a business to run.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing. I don't want to get into that.
Your
piece
value
of
is
it.
here.
Yes. But
Yeah.
my point is their attempt was to simplify and
Make the transaction less expensive.
make it less expensive and also simplify it with all of these confusing fees. Because there's without a doubt, even if you've sold 3-4 houses and you start looking at a settlement statement, well, sometimes that gets confusing, especially per the taxes, per the escrow fee, per the...
Right,
the
but Open Door service fee doesn't include all those other fees that
No,
way.
it doesn't.
So how is that simplifying?
Well,
it's just basically saying like, hey, give us the service fee, we'll buy your house. No,
yeah,
no
it's saying
realtor
don't look
commission.
over here.
And we get to pick the value.
Yeah, maybe it simplifies the process.
They wouldn't pay the MLS fee probably in that situation. I don't know. I haven't looked at a settlement statement in Atlanta that Open Door closed. But my point is it just made me think of that.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that we run off the model of the 3 C's that people, buyers, sellers, they want certainty, convenience, and cost effectiveness. And in that cost effectiveness umbrella is the transparency of the cost. And
Yep.
I believe that when people know what the costs are up front, they can go into it eyes wide open
Make
and
an intelligent decision.
Yeah, make a decision that's best for them. And consumers are smart. Like, we need to stop treating consumers like they're idiots. We need to stop these stupid, cheesy sales scripts. We need to stop saying shit like date the rate and marry the house. How'd that work out for you 18 months ago? Rates just went up and up and up and up. And like, if you bought a house and that was
We're
the
a funny
advice.
industry.
No, it's like,
I know, I
seriously,
thought it was
like,
funny.
Like, agents need to stop treating consumers like they're idiots. Like, I'm just being real.
So this American Real Estate Association is a movement.
It's a movement.
How is this going to take off? I mean, I would love it to take off, and I mean,
I'm excited. I want something fresh and new.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want new ideas and new leadership.
our MLS sucks. Like the freaking website sucks,
And
it sucks to have to go through all that crap, and they haven't done crap to it.
Yeah.
Dude,
So some of our
if you
property
look at
analysts.
all of them, like Flex, which is one of the better ones, biggest predominant.
It's terrible.
shit.
It's terrible.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's
The
so
user
old.
interface of most of them is archaic.
It's garbage because they don't want to invest in any of the money that we're paying them to make it better.
And then this is supposed to be the search that we send out to our clients. Like,
Yeah.
don't go on Zillow, which is amazing and easy to use, or Redfin,
Yeah,
which is
go
even
on
better.
this crappy
Use
thing that I'm going to
this.
send you.
Let me give you my portal.
Yeah. Oh, look at this
Exactly.
portal.
But I will say, though, that Jason and I, we've been looking for a second home. We want to take advantage of cost segregation and have that accelerated depreciation. So we were looking at houses. And one of the things that we noticed is that Zillow is often wrong. It's inaccurate. So really important that we get at least a
saw your
3-bathroom.
post.
Yeah, we
And-
wasted an agent's time because
Yeah.
we thought there was no HOA and there was an HOA because Zillow said there was no HOA.
So Zillow is not accurate either. So it's just a fundamental problem. Like, sellers or buyers deserve a better search experience from their agent, and MLS is just not cutting it.
No, so I wonder what this national MLS is going to look like. Hopefully, it's going to have some good technology here.
Well, if you have a connection to the American Real Estate Association and you're listening, please connect us. You can connect me.
We want to join.
My email address is my first name, Kayla, K-A-L-A, @Zoodealio.com. We're interested in checking it out and seeing if it would be a good fit.
Let's do this.
Yeah, it also makes me think with what you just said and your experience that you had in this past weekend. What is that going to look like now with the settlement, coming in? Yes, buyer, broker, right? There's just going to be less prominent information where an agent may have been able to look it up in their local MLS. You said, hey, I'm interested in X property. Hey, let me check this out. Yeah, one of the things that's important to us is 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, this happens to have an HOA. That I know you said that it's important for you to not have an HOA, so this would violate that thing. Are you sure you still want to see it? So that's what I'm saying. There's like a level of local expertise and professionalism, I think that's going to get missed in some of this, right? So, and again, I know all of this was to try to solve it and make it more simple and cost transparency for the buyer, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose, hey, Jason and I were trying to go it alone. We probably could have honed in and found a buyer's agent. But the reality is we just want to.
I don't want to.
Yeah, we just want to.
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah. Colby's
hey, you know what?
Colby's going to need to cut that.
That's a perfect example. I mean, think about it as a licensed realtor yourself. First off, it is not fun selling your house, even if you were to sell it yourself. You're the expert. You're like, oh, no one can sell my house better than me. Yeah, you're right, because you're experienced at it. It's still not fun. If you were to go buy a property out of state and you need a buyer's representative, you're like, ugh, because you know the process and they have their own process. So that's the thing too. Like we know the difficulties and challenges that consumers face. And then we have the same difficulties and challenges ourselves
when we're being
the quote unquote expert in the industry. So, there definitely needs to be some pretty big massive changes. I don't know exactly what that looks like or what that's going to entail. All I know is right now we are in change. We are living it. And we all have the opportunity to push it to where we want it to go. And this, American, I'm spacing it.
The American Real Estate Association.
Yeah.
Area.
This could be a movement's a movement, right? It's either going to, and a movement is community. That's all it is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if this, goes, hey, this is more of a movement that we want to be
catch steam.
Yes, to be a part of, then we'll see if it takes off.
Yeah, I like it. Well, this has been an interesting discussion today, and I think that they're discussions worth having, and just keeping it real, keeping it honest, and we're just keeping it candid for you. So if you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation, please leave it in the comments. Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you get updated of our new episodes.